Hi guys, in this video we will talk about Chron chat. Previewing Duke men's basketball versus North Carolina. How to watch the Olympics on TV or online. U.S. skeleton sliders want global drug testing standards to match those in U.S. Chron chat. Previewing Duke men's basketball versus North Carolina. With the Blue Devils set to face off against North Carolina for the first time this season. Three of our men's basketball beat writers broke down some of the biggest questions surrounding the two teams this season and gave their predictions. How concerning was Saturday's loss to St. John's for this Duke team's future? Mitchell Gladstone. At the end of the day, the most concerning thing about Saturday's loss is the fact that the Blue Devils just don't seem to be able to get up for matchups with teams below their level. Duke is 5-1 against teams ranked in the RPI top 50, yet it is just 3-3 against teams ranked between 51 and 100. I don't know whether it's young guys not taking opponents seriously or just some strange coincidence, but if the Blue Devils wind up as a No. 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, they're going to face a 15 and then either a 7 or 10 before the Sweet 16, and those teams will undoubtedly give Duke all they can handle. Hank Tucker. Saturday's loss doesn't really affect my thoughts on Duke's chances of beating any of the national title contenders in March, but the result will hurt the Blue Devils' case for a no. Saturday's loss doesn't really affect my thoughts on Duke's chances of beating any of the national title contenders in March, but the result will hurt the Blue Devils' case for a no. 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Duke didn't care nearly as much as St. John's did. And it paid the price. But I doubt the Blue Devils will have as much trouble getting energized for games like the matchup with North Carolina Thursday night or any postseason contests in the ACC and NCAA tournaments. Duke is still a title contender, but it might make its road tougher by playing itself out of a high seed. Ben Leonard. Duke's loss to St. John's meant absolutely nothing, but it was very revealing. The Blue Devils were not ready to play, perhaps looking ahead to this week's game against the Tar Heels. Their tendency to play down to their opponent's level has been concerning. We all saw it against Portland State, Southern and Boston College. Some might talk about the ramifications in terms of seeding in March, but seeding doesn't matter for this team. Such a young team needs time to grow together. It could be a no. 7 seed but figure it all out in the ACC tournament and make a run to the championship. But they'll have to learn to take every game seriously and play defense first. What's the most interesting individual matchup you'll be watching Thursday night? MG. The one player who has been a bit of a conundrum for Duke is Trevin Duval. Although the freshman is certainly talented and a crucial piece of the Blue Devil offense is both a penetrator and a distributor, his intensity on the defensive end has been inconsistent. And outside of a masterful 28-point effort in last year's regular season finale, Tar Heel point guard Joel Berry has been held to 15 points or fewer in 6 matchups with Duke. Assuming that Duval is tasked with guarding Berry, the winner of that matchup could very likely propel his team to victory. HT. As Mitchell points out, Duval and Berry will likely be physically matched up against each other as opposing point guards. But I'm more interested in the intangible matchup between captains Berry and Grayson Allen in the backcourt. Both have had their moments of glory in the rivalry, Allen with his clutch shooting to seal the Blue Devils' victory in Durham last year and Berry with his 28 points to return the favor in Chapel Hill. But both players have been cold from the outside for most of their senior seasons. Whichever veteran has a breakout game and can score more like they did as sophomores and juniors could swing Thursday's matchup. BL. I'm intrigued by the matchup down low. North Carolina only has one truly big post player, but leads the nation in rebounds, just ahead of Duke. Marvin Bagley III has struggled at times on defense against bigger post players like Wake Forest's Darrell Moore, and the Tar Heels' lone towering big could take advantage. At 6'10", Sterling Manley could come off the bench and be lightning in a bottle against Bagley. Manley doesn't play a whole lot, he averages just under 12 minutes per game, but has been very effective while on the floor, averaging nearly 6 points and 5 rebounds per game. The spotlight might be on Luke May, but Manley could be Duke's Achilles heel. With the Tar Heels getting into the matchup close to .500 in the ACC, are you surprised about how much they've struggled at home this year? MG. I wouldn't say I'm all that surprised by North Carolina's struggles, only because they lost some really critical pieces after winning a national title, and that hurts. But on top of that, Tar Heel fans never seem to show up when their team needs them most. Sure, they'll make noise in the final 8 minutes if their team is trying to make a comeback, but in losses to Wofford and NC State, the North Carolina faithful were silent as their team struggled to take out an inferior opponent. I don't doubt that it'll be a raucous environment Thursday night in Chapel Hill, but if Duke can jump out in front early, the Blue Devils have a chance to take the crowd out of the game. I'll disagree with my colleagues here and say I thought the Tar Heels would be the Blue Devils' primary challenger in the ACC, and I'm extremely surprised at their struggles. Barry, May and Theo Pinson were all key players on a national championship team, and I keep expecting them to play like it. Sure, they lost a lot of production from last year with Justin Jackson, Kennedy Meeks, Isaiah Hicks and Tony Bradley all departing, but they lost a lot 2 years ago as well when All-Americans Marcus Page and Bryce Johnson graduated. North Carolina responded then by winning the 2017 national championship, and I expected its returning veterans to put it right back in the mix this season. I was wrong. BL. I'm not surprised at all. The Dean Dome has been described to have a wine and cheese crowd at times for a reason. How to watch the Olympics on TV or online? New York, every Olympic event will be streamed live. To watch online, though, you must be a paying cable or satellite subscriber. As with past Olympics, NBC is requiring proof of a subscription. If you've already given up on traditional cable or satellite television, you can sign up for an online TV service such as PlayStation Vue or YouTube TV. Otherwise, your video will cut out after a half-hour grace period. The subscription requirement also applies to coverage on virtual reality headsets. More than 1,800 hours of online coverage has begun in the United States. Here's a guide to watching the Olympics online. Traditional coverage. NBC's over-the-air network will cover popular sports such as figure skating and skiing, some of it live. For those who can't get to a television, NBC will stream the broadcast at nbcolympics.com and the NBC Sports app. There, though, you'll need your paid TV credentials to sign in, even though you can watch the network over the air for free. The sports network NBCSN will be the main overflow location, carrying events such as the biathlon, bobsled and luge. Coverage on CNBC and USA Network will be limited to curling and ice hockey. The Olympic Channel will have medal ceremonies, news and highlights, but not event coverage. Coverage on all 4 of these cable networks will also be streamed online. Much of the online coverage will come from the International Olympic Committee's Olympic Broadcasting Services, meaning that the spotlight will be on all athletes, not just Americans. In addition to live events, you can get streams of some training and practice runs. NBC also plans digital-only shows, including a daily 2-hour wrap-up starting at noon ET, 2 a.m. the next morning in PyeongChang. Some cable companies plan special features. NBC owner Comcast will include online coverage on its TV set-top boxes and TV coverage on its mobile apps to offer viewers one-stop access to the Olympics. Comcast and other cable providers will also offer the opening ceremony and other events in sharper 4K resolution, though with a day's delay. Virtual reality. Intel is working with the Olympic Broadcasting Services to produce virtual reality coverage of 30 events, including 18 events, 55 hours of live coverage. During the Rio Olympics in 2016, virtual reality coverage typically wasn't live and required Samsung's Gear VR headsets with a Samsung phone. This time, VR is available on Google Daydream and Microsoft Mixed Reality headsets as well. Those without a headset can still watch on web browsers or Apple and Android mobile devices. In the United States, you'll need the NBC Sports VR app. VR isn't meant to replace television. Although Intel's VR productions of baseball and other sports had their own announcers, the Olympics coverage will rely on regular TV coverage embedded in the VR experience. And most of the VR video will be in 180 degrees, you'll see the action in front of you in a little bit to the sides but not what's behind you. Videos in 360 degrees will be limited to non-competition features such as a demo run down the bobsled. But VR will offer more leaderboards and stats than television, along with the ability to choose camera positions. For downhill skiing, for instance, you might prefer watching from a particular location on the mountain, the way a spectator would, rather than have the camera shift as the skier goes down. For figure skating, one camera will be near the judges, so you can get their vantage point. There will be no cameras on the rink or on any athletes. Non-subscribers to cable or satellite TV. For the most part, access to an online TV service, one that streams many of the channels you'd get from a cable subscription, will also let you use the NBC apps for streaming in VR. Google's YouTube TV has the lowest price for all 5 Olympic TV channels, at $35 a month. Google says the service is available in more than 80 U.S. markets, covering more than 80% of households, although the NBC network isn't available everywhere. In exclude markets, you could check out a rival. What works best will depend on your needs. DirecTV Now also has a $35 a month offering. But the Olympic channel is part of a higher tier, at $60 a month, and DirecTV Now generally won't let you record programs for viewing later. A DVR feature is still being tested among some subscribers. Hulu with live TV is $40 a month for all 5 channels and DVR. PlayStation Vue, Sling TV and Fubo TV are all $45 for comparable packages. But you can bring Sling TV's bill down to $30 for just the 2 main Olympic channels and DVR. PlayStation is $40 without the Olympic channel. Free trials are available, and you can cancel after the Olympics. Most services let you enter your zip code to check whether the NBC station is available. Streaming might be restricted where the station isn't available. Beyond video, the NBC Sports app and the NBC Olympics website offer highlights, interviews and features on athletes with no subscription required. You'll also have full access to scores, schedules and guides to understanding obscure events. Samsung, an Olympic sponsor, developed the official Apple and Android app for the Games, called PyeongChang 2018. It has schedules, news and 3D and drone views of the venues. The Games' official website PyeongChang2018.com also has live video of the Olympic torch relay. Traditional media organizations will also cover the event, even though extensive video from the official venues are restricted to the rights-holding broadcasters. The Associated Press, for instance, has a Winter Games hub with traditional text, photo and video coverage alongside graphics breaking down complicated moves in figure skating and snowboarding and daily illustrations from sketch artist Dan Archer. U.S. Skeleton sliders want global drug testing standards to match those in U.S. There was an off-season when U.S. skeleton athlete Katie Ulander got a knock on her door from drug testers 19 times in the span of a few weeks. Sometimes they wanted blood. Sometimes they wanted urine. Often, they wanted both. The process is annoying. It's also effective, so Ulander and her teammates wonder why it's not the global standard. Ulander and other members of the U.S. skeleton team suggested Thursday that the rest of the world should follow the testing model employed by the U.S. anti-doping agency, especially with the ongoing fallout from the Russian doping scandal that saw widespread accusations of cheating and now a belief that many flat-out beat a broken system. "I'd love if the global model adopted ours," three-time U.S. men's skeleton Olympian John Daly said. "We get tested pretty strictly, as does Canada. Everyone else. You talk to some of the other athletes, they don't even know how to fill out the paperwork. The testing isn't happening. We don't care if our testing is strict. That's fine with me. We just want the rest of the world to be like ours." It's not the first time American athletes have offered this opinion. Olympic swimming great Michael Phelps took his pleas for change to Congress last year, saying that he does not believe that "I've stood up at international competitions and the rest of the field has been clean." Same goes these days for sliders, who saw many Russians sanctioned and banned by the International Olympic Committee, and many of those reinstated after appeals went to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. "I'm not in other nations' testing pools, so I can't speak exactly for how often they get tested," said Matt Antoine, a two-time Olympian and the bronze medalist in men's skeleton at the Sochi Games. "But my perception, talking to them, is we get tested considerably more than they do." Ulander finished fourth at the Sochi Olympics 4 years ago, when Russia's Elena Nikitina was found by the IOC to have been part of the doping program at those Olympics. Ulander was expected to move up to Nikitina's bronze medal spot, but the CAS ruling essentially restored Nikitina's medal. Ulander still doesn't have one, and now Nikitina is among those in PyeongChang fighting for a chance to compete.